If you've lived in Missouri long enough, there's a good chance you've passed places where entire communities once lived without ever realizing it. Across this state are towns that disappeared, communities that were forced to leave, and places that were slowly left behind over time. These are 12 ghost towns in Missouri, and number 1 is hard to believe happened in your own state. Number 12. Times Beach, Missouri. This town was founded as a newspaper promotion, grew into a working-class community of 2,000 people on Route 66, and then the government told everyone to leave and take nothing with them, because someone had been spraying a toxic byproduct of Agent Orange production on the roads for years while the children played in it. The government bought the entire town and turned it into a state park, and the official who ordered the evacuation publicly admitted 8 years later that the risk had probably been overstated. Times Beach was created in 1925 when the St. Louis Star-Times ran a promotion. Buy a 6-month subscription plus $67.50 and get a 20 by 100-foot lot along the Merrimack River. The resort town they imagined never materialized, but a real working-class community did. Families, a post office, businesses, a Route 66 stop that served travelers for decades. By the early 1980s, the population had grown to over 2,000. In the 1970s, a waste hauler named Russell Bliss was hired to spray waste oil on the town's unpaved roads for dust control. What Bliss didn't disclose was that his waste oil was contaminated with dioxin, a toxic byproduct of Agent Orange production. The children of Times Beach played in the purple-tinted spray. Horses on properties where Bliss had also sprayed barn floors began dying. By 1979, the EPA was taking soil samples. In December 1982, 2 things happened at the same time. The EPA announced that dioxin levels in Times Beach soil were dangerously high, and the Merrimack River flooded the town, spreading the contamination further. Residents returning after the flood were told to take nothing with them. On December 23, 1982, 2 days before Christmas, the government told the people of Times Beach their town was over. The federal government spent $33 million buying out every property, disincorporated the town, and over the following years, incinerated 265,000 tons of contaminated soil. In 1991, the CDC official who had recommended the evacuation publicly stated that in retrospect, the risk had probably been overstated. Today, Times Beach is Route 66 State Park, and the people who jog its trails every day have no idea what they are running on. The next town didn't have a chemical spill. The government just showed up one morning and told them they had 45 days to leave. Number 11. Howell, Hamburg, and Tunerville, Missouri. One morning in October 1940, every household in 3 small Missouri farming communities woke up to a letter from the War Department. 45 days to pack and go. Their land had been chosen for the largest explosives plant in the United States. Most of the families had been on that land for over 100 years. Howell, Hamburg, and Tunerville were German immigrant communities in St. Charles County. Farming families, churches, 5 one-room schoolhouses, a women's baseball team, and the Francis Howell High School, which still carries the name of a town that no longer exists. Today, the Francis Howell School District has over 17,000 students, most of whom have no idea that Howell was a real community the government erased in 1940, and that their school's name is the only thing the families were allowed to keep. The government paid for the properties, the amounts were contested, families had almost no recourse, the buildings were demolished and burned, and within months, construction began on the Weldon Spring Ordnance Works. From 1941 to 1945, the plant produced over 700 million pounds of TNT and DNT, the largest single explosives operation in American history. After the war, the Army sold most of the land to Missouri, but kept 200 acres, and in the 1950s, the Atomic Energy Commission built a uranium processing facility on the same ground. The uranium plant ran from 1958 to 1966, contaminating the soil with uranium, radium, and thorium. When it closed, the waste was dumped in a nearby limestone quarry, which spent the next 20 years becoming what one EPA report described as a toxic cesspool of radioactive sludge, mercury, asbestos, and hundreds of unlabeled drums. The cleanup cost $1.48 billion. Today, there is a 75-foot mound of permanently sealed nuclear waste at the Weldon Springs site that you can hike to the top of, the highest point in St. Charles County, with a genuinely impressive view. The communities of Howell, Hamburg, and Tunerville are underneath everything: the conservation areas, the trails, the nuclear waste mound. The families who got that letter in 1940 never came back. This next one never even got a letter. It just got abandoned by the market when the money ran out. Number 10. Indian Ridge Resort, Missouri. In 2006, a developer broke ground on a $1.6 billion luxury resort near Branson, 400 hotel rooms, the second largest indoor water park in the United States, a marina on Table Rock Lake, condominiums, retail, dining. 2 years later, the 2008 financial crisis hit and every investor walked away. Today, the concrete shells sit in the Ozark Hills just off Highway 76, going viral on TikTok every few years when someone posts a video walking through them. The Indian Ridge Resort was genuinely ambitious, a 900-acre development designed to make Branson's entertainment district look small. Structural frames went up, roads were cut through the hills, and then in the span of a few months, in late 2008, the financial system that had been funding it collapsed. The investors walked, and the site was locked. For the years that followed, the partially constructed resort sat in the Ozarks, the concrete frames slowly filling with graffiti and vegetation. TikTok found it around 2021, and suddenly millions of people were watching videos of someone walking through what looked like a post-apocalyptic luxury hotel. Roofless rooms, empty pools, stairwells going nowhere. It is privately owned and technically closed to visitors. What makes Indian Ridge remarkable is not the ruin, but the proximity to Branson, one of the most visited entertainment destinations in America, 5 minutes down the road. The second largest indoor water park in the country would have been right here. Instead, the concrete stands empty and the deer have moved back in. The next one was packed with 10,000 people every summer weekend, until the day the river decided it was done. Number 9. Castlewood, Missouri. On a hot summer weekend in the 1920s, there might be 10,000 people at Castlewood, swimming in the Merrimack River, dancing at the pavilion, crowding the restaurants and the bars. It was the most popular resort destination in the St. Louis area, accessible by electric railway, and it ran for decades as a genuine escape for a city that needed one. The 1935 flood ended it almost overnight, and today, the site is a state park where most visitors have no idea they're walking through the ruins of one of Missouri's most beloved resorts. Castlewood was established in the late 1880s on a stretch of the Merrimack River, bluffs, river beaches, genuinely beautiful. The electric railway made it accessible to working families, and at its peak, Castlewood had over 600 summer cottages, multiple hotels, dance halls, and restaurants drawing crowds from across the region. Prohibition-era Castlewood had a reputation for creative law enforcement, and the resort attracted a crowd that appreciated the flexibility. On June 20th, 1935, the Merrimack flooded and didn't stop, destroying hundreds of cottages, sweeping away the infrastructure that had made the resort run, and taking several lives. The dance halls and restaurants didn't survive this one. The electric railway, already struggling, used the damage as its final reason to shut the line down. Without easy transportation from St. Louis, Castlewood couldn't get its crowds back. Some families rebuilt their cottages and kept using the valley, but the resort was finished. Today, Castlewood State Park covers the valley, stone ruins of original resort buildings still visible to hikers who look for them, and the beach is still there, still filling up on hot summer weekends with people who have no idea what it used to be. The next entry didn't flood. It was burned down deliberately by the side that was supposed to be protecting it. Number 8. Osceola, Missouri. In August 1861, Union forces under Senator and General James Lane arrived in Osceola and spent 3 days systematically looting and burning one of the most prosperous towns in Missouri. Every business stripped, the courthouse burned, the bank robbed, and 9 men put to death in the public square, carried out by the Union Army against a Missouri town that had not sided with the Confederacy, with no military authorization whatsoever. Osceola was the county seat of St. Clair County, a river town of 2,000 people, banks, warehouses, a thriving commercial district. It had not seceded. Missouri was a border state, still officially in the Union. Lane and his Kansas Jayhawkers came anyway, took what they wanted, and burned the rest. The destruction of Osceola on September 23, 1861, became the justification for Order No. 11, issued by Union General Thomas Ewing in 1863, forcibly evacuating the entire civilian population of 4 Missouri counties along the Kansas border. Tens of thousands of people removed from their homes in days. The painting, Order No. 11 by George Caleb Bingham, showing civilians being driven out at gunpoint, became one of the most reproduced images of the Civil War era. Osceola was rebuilt and still exists as a small town. But what happened there, carried out by the Union side against civilians in a state that never left the Union, remains one of the least discussed episodes of the entire war. If this kind of story is what you watch this channel for, subscribe. We go deeper every single week. The next one goes even further back, to a town that was already 3 centuries old before most Americans knew it existed. Number 7. Mine La Motte, Missouri. In 1723, French colonial forces established a lead mine in what is now Madison County, Missouri, 53 years before the Declaration of Independence, at a time when the land had no American name and the nearest thing to a neighboring settlement was 1,000 miles away. The mine they built is still there. It is the oldest continuously operated mine site in the United States. The French came because they found galena, lead ore in quantities that made this the most productive lead source in French North America, essential for ammunition, tools, and trade across the continent. They built a small fortified settlement around the mine and ran it for decades. The mine changed hands through the colonial period, British control, then American, and kept operating through the 19th century as a community of miners and families grew up around it, small and isolated and entirely dependent on what came out of the ground. When lead prices collapsed in the late 1800s, the community scattered. What they left behind is still there, a rural Madison County site where some of the original mine workings remain accessible, next to a cemetery that holds graves from before the American Revolution, the physical record of people who were here when this land belonged to a different country entirely. Most people drive through Madison County without stopping. Almost none of them know they're passing the oldest mine site in the United States. The next one also refused to disappear, but for a completely different reason. Number 6. Paris Springs Junction, Missouri. Gary Turner spent decades restoring a Route 66 ghost town that most people had forgotten existed, rebuilding it by hand from historical photographs, filling it with period tools and a 1926 Pierce arrow that became one of the most photographed objects on the entire Route 66 corridor, giving every visitor a free cold soda and never charging a cent. He just refused to let the place die. Paris Springs Junction in Lawrence County was a small Route 66 community, a garage, a gas station, a general store, a few houses, built entirely around the traveler trade. When the 4-lane highway bypassed it in 1959, the traffic vanished within a year and the community dissolved. Turner grew up connected to Route 66 and spent years acquiring and restoring the Paris Springs Junction property. He rebuilt the 1920s-era Gay Parita service station from historical photographs, restocked the garage with period equipment, including the Pierce arrow, which appeared in travel publications from Europe, Japan, and Australia, and opened it to Route 66 travelers as a free stop. He became a landmark figure on the Missouri Route 66 corridor, known for that cold soda and for the sheer stubbornness of keeping the place alive. Turner passed away in 2015. His family has continued maintaining it, and the Gay Parita station remains one of the most photographed stops on Route 66. Technically, a ghost town brought back to life by one person's refusal to let it go, now more alive than most Route 66 towns that were never abandoned in the first place. The next one is similar, except the man who brought it back moved the entire town to do it. Number 5. Red Oak 2, Missouri Lowell. Davis watched his hometown die in slow motion through the 1970s, businesses closing, families leaving, buildings rotting, and instead of accepting it, he started buying the buildings one by one, trucking them to his farm in Carthage and rebuilding them exactly as they had been. He spent 20 years reconstructing a dying Missouri town in the wrong location on purpose. Davis was an artist and illustrator from the southwest Missouri town of Red Oak. When Red Oak began emptying out, he decided the buildings weren't going to disappear if he could stop it. He bought the general store, the gas station, a blacksmith shop, a church, a schoolhouse, and several other original structures, had them disassembled and rebuilt them on his property. He furnished them with objects from the original era and placed life-sized figurines of real townspeople, built from historical photographs, in the windows and on the stoops, so visitors could see the faces of the people who had actually lived there. He called it Red Oak 2, the second version of a town that couldn't save itself. Today, Red Oak 2 is open on Davis's farm. Visitors walk through the actual buildings from the actual dying town, reconstructed and preserved by one man who refused to let them disappear. The buildings are real. The town they came from is gone, and what exists now is neither a ghost town nor a museum, but something entirely strange, a rescued version of a place that should no longer exist. The next one was built around a castle that its owner died before finishing, in one of the most dramatic single stories in Missouri history. Number 4. Ha Tonka, Missouri. In 1905, a Kansas City businessman named Robert McClure Snyder bought 5,000 acres of Ozark limestone bluffs above a natural spring and started building a European castle in the Missouri wilderness. In 1906, he died when one of the first automobiles in Missouri lost a wheel going downhill. His sons finished the castle anyway, turned it into a hotel resort in 1937, and watched it burn down in 1968. Today, the roofless stone ruins sit above one of the largest natural springs in Missouri, and most people have never heard of it. The castle grounds were genuinely extraordinary. A 12-story water tower, a carriage house, a greenhouse, a servant's quarters, ornamental gardens on the limestone bluffs, all built above a natural lake fed by the spring with a cave system flowing underneath. The Ha Tonka Hotel Resort ran for 2 decades before a chimney fire in 1968 destroyed the main structure. The state of Missouri acquired the property as Ha Tonka State Park. Today, hikers walk through the roofless stone remains, looking down at the spring lake and the cave system beneath. Everything Snyder bought 5,000 acres to frame, still exactly there, exactly as he never got to see it. The next town was built on a river that flooded it 6 times, and 6 times they rebuilt, until it flooded a 7th time. Number 3. Lamine, Missouri. The Missouri River flooded the town of Lamine 6 times in recorded history, and 6 times the residents rebuilt. Then in 1993, the Great Flood arrived, and after that one, nobody rebuilt. Lamine was a small Cooper County town on the Missouri River, a ferry crossing, a mill, a post office, the basic infrastructure of a 19th century river community. It had been fighting the river since its founding, which was either a testament to its residents' stubbornness or a poor comment on their judgment about floodplain real estate, depending on how you look at it. The community that persisted through 6 floods was a real one, families who had been on that river for generations, and who rebuilt because the same river that flooded them was what made the land productive in the first place. The 1993 Great Midwest Flood was the largest flood event in Missouri's recorded history. 50 levees failed, hundreds of communities were affected, and the flood lasted months. When the water finally receded, the question was whether anyone could justify rebuilding one more time, and the answer was no. The government bought out the remaining properties, the town was vacated, and the site became part of the river bottomland. Every few years when the Missouri runs high, the river goes where Lamine used to be, and there is nothing left to destroy. The next one didn't flood. It just got bypassed by every road and railroad ever built in that part of Missouri, slowly, quietly, over 100 years. Number 2. Wayne City, Missouri. Wayne City is one of the oldest European settlements in what is now Missouri, a site that was a Shawnee trading hub before the Revolution, a French trading post after that, an American frontier town after that, and then bypassed by every railroad and road that came through in the 19th century until there was almost nothing left. The cemetery that remains is the oldest documented burial site in the region. Wayne City sits in Wayne County in the Missouri Ozarks, in a landscape where Native American communities had been living for centuries before European contact. When American settlers arrived after the Louisiana Purchase, Wayne City was already a functioning community built on trade networks that had been running through the area long before any European showed up. It was never large, but for a time in the early 19th century, it was the most important community in Wayne County. A courthouse, stores, a mill, a post office, families whose roots in that landscape went back further than their written records. The railroads that came to Missouri in the 1850s did not come through Wayne County, and when the county seat moved to Piedmont in 1872, whatever official reason had justified Wayne City's existence went with it. What remains is the cemetery, graves dating to the earliest documented European settlement of the area, marking people who lived on this land before Missouri was a state, before the Louisiana Territory was American, and in some cases before anyone in the East had heard of the place. It is the most complete record of how long this particular corner of Missouri has been lived in, and the last one is even quieter, the most common kind of Missouri ghost town, and the kind almost nobody ever talks about. Number 1. Clifton City, Missouri. Clifton City is not famous. It was never large, never remarkable, and its end was not dramatic. A small Motte County farming community that existed for about 50 years, a post office, a general store, a few churches, families farming the Missouri prairie. And then the railroad chose a different route. The post office closed, and the people moved a few miles away. The only thing left is the cemetery. What makes Clifton City worth ending on is not what happened there, but what it represents, because there are dozens of communities across Missouri that followed exactly this arc. Founded in the 1860s or 1870s in a location that made sense before the railroads, growing to a few hundred people, losing the railroad decision to a neighboring town, then losing the post office and the school as a consequence. The family's not moving far, just to Tipton or California or Versailles, a few miles in the direction of the railroad. The land still farmed, the town simply gone. The Clifton City Cemetery sits on a small rise in Motte County with about 200 graves, the oldest dating to the 1860s, maintained by a local preservation society with no road sign and no historical marker. The families whose grandparents are buried there still know where it is, and everyone else drives past without knowing anything was ever there. Drop a comment and tell me what town or place in Missouri we should cover next. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.